Still week 7 Tuesday. We've made a little progress. Kind of a thing. This is how it works. This was the plan as of this morning. Kind of did this a bit and then found some issues. So the issues ended up being with this vertical, breaking the space into these vertical sections, was that if you just get a bit unlucky, which happens all the time, and all of your platforms were to spawn in some area up here, and you just get a little bit unlucky again, and you get most of your platforms spawning in this kind of area, and then you happen to be standing on a platform down here, you now just still have this issue where there's nowhere to go where you are, and it continues to be the goal that the player generally has somewhere to go within some reasonable reach. So in order to wrangle this a little bit, come up with this system where we still divide into a vertical slice like this, but then we also divide into horizontal sections like this, and then we guarantee a platform in each section. So the platforms within a section can be in any random bounds, both horizontal and vertical. I don't know, the squiggly lines obviously say that. So platforms could be like this. Great. So we now guarantee that there will be at least a platform in each section like this. I added in a little safeguard so that platforms cannot do this by some roll of the dice. They will always have some variability to the one above them. So like quadrants know what the last quadrant did. Additionally, we have a really nice lever now that we can pull where I can just increase the amount of quadrants in order to increase the density of platforms and not lead to this situation where we end up with some small cluster of platforms, which really in this game you can't do anything with. I realized that this creates a predictable, nice, these are all still like variable sizes depending on how far you've traveled. So down this end they'll be smaller, down this end they'll be larger. So a platform here might look like this, a platform here might look like this, over the span of about 800 meters. This creates a nice consistent environment, but environments aren't always consistent, so we need to be able to roll some dice. So the other thing that this system does is has some percentage chance in each vertical section. We've got some percentage chance to just completely skip a quadrant. So if we imagine we now have this environment here where we can vary how many cells, or how many quadrants, I'm calling them, quadrants from a vertical slice. We can control how many quadrants we have, and we always skip a quadrant. So if you kind of blow this out, you can imagine, or maybe you don't need to imagine, because we can just look at the thing in here. Great. So this is the spawner. These big thick lines are my kind of debug lines for 100-meter checks, so that I can see how a run looks over a much longer distance rather than just in one little spot. We're just in the inspector at the moment outside of play mode. This is my spawner. I hit spawn test slices, and what that does is simulates the first 3 vertical columns. So we can see pretty quickly here, this is a quadrant like we were just looking at. That's a quadrant out of this vertical slice, and there is one platform in each quadrant, with the exception of this quadrant, which is the one that it skipped in that one. I've got the skip chance set to 100% right now, so every single vertical will skip one quadrant. So this one skipped that one, this one skipped that one, this one skipped that one, and we can see over some variations, we can see a nice little organic kind of spread of platforms around us that seems to be working. Then one could enable our difficulty override, regenerate these, and now we can simulate what might this environment look like at a higher difficulty, and we can just iterate through those and check. So we can see it's the same kind of spread of platforms, but the platforms are all obviously a lot smaller. Additionally, one might want to increase the amount of quadrants. So that now has an absurd amount of quadrants. So we're expecting when we clear these and spawn, we'll still just have one platform in each of these little quadrants inside of the vertical slice, just the same way that if we turned our quadrants down now just to 2 and clear those and respawn. So now we're just seeing that's the platform for that quadrant, and then because we have a 100% skip chance, it skipped that quadrant. We could turn that skip chance down to 0, so we no longer skip them, and now we have a platform in each quadrant. Great. Another cool way to visualize this, if we increase our skip chance to 1, and we turn our test tools off and we clear our test environment, if we just come straight into play mode, no, because our quadrants are an awful number, being 2, no shade, 2. If we go back to like 6 seems like a thing. If we pop in here very quickly, we've got a lot of volume happening. So if we get rid of a little of that volume and hit pause, come across into our scene, our system is actually live here. So we can see the red crosses for the quadrants that we've skipped. We can see our 100 meter mark, and if we grab our player and ensure that we actually have our player, we can drag our player out to the 800 meter mark. And what this enables us to do now is observe what our pattern was like. So if we roll along, we can see, I'll explain T's in a second. That's another variation that can occur. You can see our little platforms all just spawning. And as we travel along, so if we start up here, the smallest platform we might observe is maybe that 4 there or that 4 there. If we travel along a couple of 100 meters, okay, we've still got some 4s, but we've now actually we've got a 3 now. Come along to here, 3 is maybe still the small size. Come along to here, now we're seeing 2s. And the top end is dropping back a little bit. Here where we were having 6s, there's still 1 6 left in this quadrant. So we move along here, we can no longer see any 6s. That's a 5. So the 6s are gone, they're just 5 long now. We're seeing 3s and 3s, and there's a 2. And as we kind of roll this further along, we kind of arrive at our smallest sizes, which are just 2 3s and 4s now. So even the 5s are gone. Pretty cool. Additionally, the spawner actually works as a scan tool for what happened at any one point. So if we come here, our X's line up with where we've skipped a quadrant in these various areas, so that you can go back and check logic for previous areas with the visualization. We could then at runtime obviously change the how many quadrants and how big the vertical slices are and such behaviors. Seems reasonable. After having a bit of a play with it, it's working. The other variation I'd added was these verticals. So each, here's one, each vertical slice has some chance to do a second iteration where it'll grab a horizontal platform and splice a vertical platform to it. This is important, and there's a little bit of weight behind this because there were some complaints in the player base that vertical platforms, when they were just on their own, were a little daunting. They were difficult to overcome. They were just generally not very fun. And what I identified is that people were not having a problem when the vertical was combined with a horizontal. Then vertical was fine. So as a bit of a compromise, I want my vertical platforms because I think that they add a visual interest to the space and are like another thing for you to interact with in some different way. They also give you a base to build your tiles against, so I think that they are generally good. So I've worked those in by way of these little undulation kind of vertical knobs that can hang down off of these platforms. I might increase the average size of them. Apart from that, that's the spawner, as it may be. Still ongoing, but it's just getting to that stage where there's actually some way to show where we started, where we're going to, why we're going there. And that can be interesting to see. So I'll go finish it up.